to qualify it better, of course, by displaced, we mean employees who actually permanently lost their jobs, correct?
Yeah, this is based on the reports of the companies who have resorted to retrench their workers permanently, and those who have really lost their jobs permanently because of the closure of the companies themselves.
Is it possible that the actual number is bigger, as a Tutay,
Well,
given
it
that
could
this
be.
is based primarily on establishments reporting to you?
Yeah, that's correct. The figures could be higher because the 8,334 that in our record is just based on the 424 companies who have submitted their reports on retrenchment and permanent closure.
But also what's staggering here is how big of a gap these figures are. 8,000. Compare that to the 1.5 million that was presented by the DTI based, I think, on the labor force survey. So can you explain to us really why is there a huge difference?
Well, ours is administrative data and based just on the submission of the companies and those in the formal sector. If you look at the DTI pronouncement about the 1.5 million, they base that on the total number of employed persons in NCR Plus bubble in January 2021 labor force survey. So they sum up the total number of workers and then they multiply that with the percentage of operations depending on each sector. If they are allowed 100% operation, 50% operation based on the IATF guidelines. So these are the assumptions made by the DTI in tandem with the PSA.
Okay, so at least that part is clear. What the DTI presented are merely projections here. But given that, what are your assumptions for the whole 2 weeks of ECQ? How many workers do you expect to actually lose their jobs?
We're looking at the 2 weeks where the first week, 22nd of March to 28th of March, where there is already a curfew, and then followed by an ECQ and now another ECQ. Looking at the 2 weeks data that we have, the average displacement, permanent displacement is around 8,000 to 10,000. So maybe additional 8 to 10,000 in the weeks of April 5 to April 11.
So you mean an average of 8,000 displaced workers per week. So we're
Per week.
expecting an additional 8,000 at least to come this extension of ECQ.
That's correct.
Okay, but all in all, you have 118,000 workers displaced since the start of the pandemic. Do we have data on how many of those have already been reintegrated into the workforce?
It's not actually reintegrated into the workforce, but because we're seeing that there are some companies who are, for instance, doing some flexible work arrangements, but they will graduate to temporary closure, and then companies under temporary closure will finally fold up to permanent closure. That's what we're seeing in the data that we are monitoring.
Now, question is, should these lockdowns extend? Should ECQ extend in the NCR Plus bubble? How much of an increase are we expecting in the number of displaced workers, at least by the end of the year? Do you have your projections at least?
We don't want to project, but I think it's much, much lower than what we have experienced in 2020. Last year, we have recorded around 420,000 displaced workers. On top of that, are about 4.5 million workers under flexible work arrangements and temporary closure. But you have to take note that companies who are in temporary closure for 1 year might really graduate to permanent closure by this time if they will not reopen safely.